Yeah, welcome to the Indigenous Heathens podcast. I'm Javier.
And I'm Yahaira Quiroz. And today we're going to be touching on the film They Call Us Monsters, more like a documentary, and whatever else comes up.
Yeah, and you know what? It was a trip because it played like a film too, though. You know, like it was a that great of a documentary where it did. You were interested. You got to see people, and it's not like once they left, you were done with them. You got to see other things, and I thought it was pretty interesting.
Yeah, just the opening of the movie itself, what really pissed me off is where, when they're reading the Miranda rights
Mhm.
and thinking back, and please, I am not excusing my behavior. I put myself in whatever situations I put myself in. Um, However, I know that many of the times when those rights were being read to me, I was like 13, 12 years old at the time. And, even after the fact, I was more aware. But prior to even understand, I had no, what I'm trying to say is I had no understanding of what the rights even were or what they meant.
Yeah,
And, and those were just whatever cases I ended up getting a couple years for. But when you're looking at 162 years, it's like, should we not be more thorough or give a better understanding to that child, because it's a kid who's facing that amount of time? Or what do you think in regards to that?
that angered me like a motherfucker. And my I was watching it with my daughter, and I I don't know. I'm probably people. I'm pretty notorious for being a bad movie watcher because I talk and I kept saying, "No, Jared, don't say shit, don't say shit, don't fuck, man." Like when he started talking, like fuck, and then there was another part having to do with that, right? Because they broke it down into sections. So spoiler alerts for anyone who hasn't watched it. But when they told him here, write the letter, say you're sorry. I
Oh
said,
yeah.
do not write that shit, fool. You're admitting to this shit, right? So I thought there was a terrible, and there still is, and like you said, when it comes to when we were younger, the same thing. Lack of representation for minors. Minors don't know what's going on. They could really get them to confess to anything because a lot of times they just want it to be over with. A lot of times they think they're gonna go home. I've had interviews where I've interviewed people and they said I thought I was just gonna confess to it and go home. It's like, nah, you ain't going nowhere. Like you belong to the state now. So
Yeah.
yeah, I think it's a even worse when we were going to YA when we got a board. Same thing. We went aboard. How the fuck are we gonna convince these college educated people to let us out of jail, adults in their 30s, 40s, and 50s, to let us out, and we had no idea of what to say. I remember they got me with something when I was at board. They said, "So you're out there being a menace and doing this," and like they made it sound pretty bad, right? And I was like, I wasn't exactly saying I was being a menace, and boom, that was it. Fucking minimization. Yeah, you're minimizing it. So it's like and that's the same thing I seen with them. Like they're trying to navigate it the best way they could, but they're so young. They had no idea what they were saying.
Yeah, it just pissed me off. Like I was thinking, like, if this was my child, and I tell my children and any kid that I run into, first of all, if you're not on parole or probation, do not allow anyone to search you.
Mhm.
They don't have the right to do that.
And
Don't
Fourth Amendment,
speak.
right?
Correct. Yeah. See, you're smarter than I am. I didn't even know that was a Fourth Amendment right, but I'm aware, of what some of my rights are. Another thing is like, don't speak to any cop, and not to discredit anybody, but cowboys will be cowboys, Indians will be Indians, and that's just what it is. And I think for me, it's like, so the brain, right?
Mhm.
So if we're going back, so there's been many studies, it's been proven that the last organ in our body to develop is the brain. So it takes about 2.5 decades, something like that. So we're talking about mid 20s, late 20s for some people, for that frontal cortex to kick in. And that frontal cortex is responsible for like empathy, impulsivity or impulse control, better judgment. I mean, all those things that we as adults, like, I mean, I know there's some shit I wouldn't do nowadays that
Yeah,
I'm
no
like,
shit. Yeah.
how the fuck, what. And I mean, so with that being said, it's like, shouldn't there be a parent present, especially with such delicate, like, act murder? Like, you're looking at the rest of your life. And I'm not being biased here. Like, I feel that every person, well, let me rephrase that. First of all, it's like, guilty, innocent to proven guilty, but I don't think that that's historically correct here in the States. It's you're guilty till otherwise,
Yeah.
and
Well, it
you
depends how
better.
much money you have.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So that's what I was gonna say. You better lawyer up, man, because ain't nobody ain't no
Yeah.
public defender gonna get you out. And with that being said, was like for me, just that pissed me off because the writing of the letter, I wanted to like just slap the shit out of Jared, like shut up,
Yeah.
dude, like
Don't say
don't
anything.
say
Yeah.
anything. Yeah, but I mean, it is what it is. And I'm sure he's not the only one.
Oh no, no, for sure, for sure. I've had homies that I got busted with, and they put us all in the tank afterwards, right? And they were like, "What'd you say? What'd you say?" And I said, "I told them I wanted a lawyer." And they were like, "Oh fuck." I said, "Well, what'd you say?" I said, "I did it. I'm not lying. Homie went to YA. Like I went home." So it's like like fucking like it happens. Like I told everybody, like I always tell everybody, like don't say anything. Do not. And I'm not saying like commit crimes. A lot of times there's times where I've seen shit where people try to talk their way out of something they didn't do, right? And as soon as the cops want to talk to you, you're a suspect. And if you're a suspect, the best thing to do is to get a lawyer to resolve the matter, to get a lawyer to go through everything, because the lawyer are more are better equipped to work with the law enforcement. We're not trained for that. We're average everyday civilians. We don't know what's going on. So the best thing to do is get a lawyer and let them handle it. Say, yeah, I'm willing to do what it takes to prove my innocence, but I'm gonna let my lawyer do it.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. You know, Another thing too, like this movie, it just really hit home because as I mentioned before, like my brother was picked up maybe 10 years ago or so. And within a matter of like not even 24 hours, he went from curfew to attempted murder. And so I got the opportunity to visit the compound unit in Silmar. Before I left Silmar to the youth authority, it was under construction, I believe it was back in 99. And when I stepped into that unit, when I say dehumanizing, it was dehumanizing. I walked away with a sense of like there was just a heavy energy there. I went every weekend while my brother was there. Some of the kids weren't getting any visits. So that goes to tell you a little bit about their environment, because most of the kids there at the time when my brother was being detained there, they were looking at 400 years. Like, who the fuck lives to be 400 years
Yeah.
old? But they were under like 24/7, like constant, what is it, surveillance. So there's a staff sitting in front of your door, and for males, even if you want to jack off, you can't jack off because
No, yeah,
somebody's
yeah.
looking at you. And I
That's
hate
everybody
to
can see you.
be,
Yeah.
and I hate to be vulgar, but I'm just being honest.
Yeah.
And it was just so dehumanizing. I mean, I've done time and stuff like that, and it's always been, I guess I've been guilty of it too, so I've been at peace with whatever I've done, but with my time and with being in whatever places I've encountered. But just I don't know how to explain it to you, like just walking out of there knowing that some of those kids were 16, 15, 14, 13, the youngest, looking at 400 years. I don't know how any human being, especially an educated one that has been trained in that field, can sleep good at night knowing that a kid just got 400 years. I don't get it.
Yeah. Well, the trip is when I got busted in 99 also, but I did most of my time in LP and Central. I went from LP to Central. At Central, they put me in a unit called M&N, right? M&N was for high-risk offenders. Since I was going to YA, it was considered a high-risk offender. Or I was fighting YA. I wasn't sentenced yet, but I was fighting it. But there were cats there who lost their fitness, and they were facing 100 years, 60 years. And it was sad because what would happen is you would have a group of homies go to court, right? They would all leave together. And then some homies would come back and you'd be like, hey, what happened to homie? Oh, that forgot broken off 80 to life. That forgot broken off 60 to life. That forgot broken off 70 years. And you're like, fuck. So I was like, man, I'm glad I'm going to YA. But what's the trip is by the time I actually arrived at Silmore after I got sentenced, the compound was complete. So I got to spend time in the compound. And what is was fucked up? My daughter was laughing at me. I said, that's fucked up. Because I was like, damn, because I said, you know what the most fucked up thing about that is, because they had the sideways windows, right?
Yeah.
I said, they had visiting in the compound, in right there in the compound, you could see it. I was like, so if you don't have a visit, you're just stuck in your room looking out the door. It was
Yeah.
fucked up. It was fucked up. And my family's, they're from Monte. They didn't have a car, so they ain't driving all the way to somewhere. So fuck it. Yeah, we just had to watch and shit. But yeah, it's crazy. You're right. It is dehumanizing. It is like it gives you this certain like feeling, like, oh shit, I'm ready for that next level, like jail level, and it's
Yeah.
kind of preparing kids, and that's unfortunate.
So, you know, and I don't mean to be biased because I do believe that I believe that anyone who commits a crime has the right to a fair trial. However, the person that's a victim should also be heard and we should have empathy for that person.
Yeah,
So I don't mean to sit here and be like biased because I myself was incarcerated or I was one of those juvenile kids at the time. Like, no, because maybe I'd be singing a whole different tune if it was my daughter in the wheelchair, like uh what Miss Suarez, I forgot her first name, but like, which I don't know how I would feel because I have a daughter in a wheelchair and I
mhm.
see, like, she's talking about certain discriminations that are going on currently. Of course, when she was when they filmed this documentary, and I felt her, and I was like in tears because with my daughter, so my daughter is diagnosed with cerebral palsy, but I do see that she can't just go hang out with girls who are walking, or I do see those that the way that her life differs from other kids who have the ability to walk.
Yeah,
So, but in my daughter's case, my daughter was born this way. Now, when your life is completely altered and you go from, having the ability to walk to just being in a chair, and now all of a sudden you're considered different and you will never be able to hike. You will never be able to do certain activities that you knew of, that you had
yeah.
full, concept of. I mean, that's a fucked up place to be in too.
Oh yeah,
Because, it's just like, I do believe that anybody who so I believe in I love psychology, I love the brain, I do believe in science, so I do believe that if it's been proven that this kid wasn't fully rational or whatever the situation might have been, okay, people do deserve a second opportunity, but where is her second opportunity at? I
yeah.
don't feel she should allow that wheelchair to define the rest of her life. But then again, we don't all think the same and we don't all bounce back from situations the same way. Every mind is its own. But so in terms of that too, it's like my heart goes out to her because it's like, will there be a second opportunity for her? Do you know what I mean? It's
Oh no,
just
yeah, for sure, for sure. Because you're right. I've seen people that have slipped into depression because they become paralyzed. They feel they're not the same person, and you're right. Like, man, I don't know how I would deal with that. Like, fuck, like I love walking around and being able to, like, for before the pandemic hit, I was walking to work every day. Like I was like, that's what I would do. That was part of the routine. I'm walking any chance I get. And for that to, you could still do things like you said. However, it's more of a challenge and it's something that you're gonna have to learn at a later stage in your life. Like you
mhm,
said, my daughter, she also has cerebral palsy. So she knows that there's things she's limited to, there's things she can't do. And she works her way around it, right?
mhm.
But for like somebody our age or even a little younger, for having to change at that time, it must be difficult. So I get completely what you're saying, which kind of leads me to the next part of the movie and my next point, which I really tripped me out is seeing them grow up, their households. If there was any way those could have been fixed, I doubt that you could see all of them were hurt. There was a lot of pain in their lives, and those households really molded them to look for something that was missing in the household outside of the household.
Yeah. Uh, we were just trying to figure out his name, but that one really hit home for me.
It was
What's his name?
Antonio.
Antonio. Like the lack of resources, and I don't mean to knock anybody. I don't mean to be mean or rude or crude by what I'm about to say. And I'm actually one of those statistics too. So I'm not passing judgment, but I feel like sometimes we continue to have children rather than focusing on the children that we do have and focusing on positioning that child, right? So that that child, like, rather than, how do I say it? Like, they say money isn't everything, but money has a lot to do with the quality of life that you'll give your children, with the way you'll position your children. What kind of education are they receiving? Are they doing their homework? And it may sound petty, but little details like that will determine what kind. And I mean, even when I'm very, because obviously every household is different. Because sometimes you give a kid sports, music, and everything that they want, and they still turn up fucked up at the end of the day. Obviously, you can't help that. But what I'm saying here is, maybe if he would have been given a little more attention, a little more love, and a little more, what's the word? Shit. What is it? Discipline.
Okay. Yeah.
Discipline. There would have been, because dude is sharp,
Yeah.
and he's sitting there and he's talking, and that was just like really sad to see what, wasted talent. And hopefully he's gotten his shit together and he's gotten out, but that's the way I looked at it. And I think it happens in our communities a lot, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. And what really tripped me out is hearing their stories is they were writing a play, they were telling stories, and they would never say it was happening to them. They didn't want it to happen to them. It was my friend. I had a friend who was, and I was like, damn, man. Like, you were going back to what you were saying earlier, the development of the brain, right? Like, they don't have those, they're not emotionally stable. What did you call last time? Emotionally intelligent
Yeah.
enough to really understand what it is they're feeling. So they try to ignore it, and they're hurt by this. They're really, really hurt by this. Jared was hurt by seeing his father stab himself. That must be traumatic as fuck. And he was hurt by, like you said, his situation. And going back to what you said earlier about being statistics, I'm one of those too. I had 4 kids by the time I was 25, thinking I got this. It's like, nah, dog, you fucking up. No, but hopefully I'm trying my best. And I learned afterwards, like, oh shit, maybe I bit off a little bit more than I could chew, but it's time to chew faster and harder now. So hopefully everything works out. I say my kids are pretty well behaved, but that's because I have a little bit more resources. You know what I mean? Like, I was already working and I already had that kind of job. But for somebody who's has less, it might be a little bit more difficult for them. And especially if there's only one parent. I was fortunate enough to, me and my wife, we've been together since, and we've raised the kids together. So I didn't see anyone else in there, and she got evicted. So obviously there were things that they were lacking, unfortunately.
Yeah, definitely. Sometimes we too, we want to be judgmental of, like, women who are, obviously raising their children by themselves. But first of all, where's the dad?
Yeah.
I want to know where that motherfucker's at, because he's just as
That's your responsibility too. Yeah.
exactly. So, and for me, like, yeah, I was a single mom, but I also had a mom. I had my brothers, I had my aunt. So I had support, and sometimes other women don't have that. And even us as women, sometimes we like to knock the other chick who's on welfare, may not have the same support systems that we do. And I don't think that's right. I think that there has to be an understanding, not necessarily an understanding, but just empathy.
Yeah.
Like,
That's the kind of
okay, well,
compassion.
compassion, yeah. And yeah, like, to see her evicted, because we used to get evicted, and sometimes we had no lights and shit on with my mom. My stepdad was in prison. So I get it. I do get it. But it's just heartbreaking for me to just, I don't know, like, he's just so bright and vibrant, and and just to see him, like, down the wrong path or on drugs. Because not only, when we're young, when we're in the adolescent stage, so as soon as puberty kicks in, I think it is, or I don't know, don't fucking quote me, I'm just talking. So as soon as that kicks in, our brain is more impressionable. Also drugs. So if you start doing drugs early in those years, especially something like meth or heroin, chances are that addiction's going to hit stronger, and it's going to stay with you a lot longer than a male adult or a female adult, and any adult that, picks up drugs later on in life. So I don't know where I was getting to with this, but the fact that just the environment around him, it's so familiar to me, but at the same time, it's been a while since I've been in that place. So it just kind of like, it brought me back to, like, damn, fuck. And we could have all stayed there, and hopefully he made a change,
I hope so too. Yeah, I'll probably look it up afterwards to see what happened to them, because it's crazy because you're right. There's that familiarity, right? I'm familiar with all of their situations. I understand. I empathize with them, but at the same time, like it was hard for me to watch because I'm watching as a father now,
Yeah.
right? So I think that's what makes it difficult. I didn't see them as gang members. I saw them as kids. Like these are fucking kids, man. And it was hard to watch these kids like throw their lives away and not really understand what a true sense of self is, because they didn't have that, right? They thought that they were part of the group. They thought they were part of the neighborhood and shit. But they didn't see the unique qualities each of them possessed. And well, I think a sad moment is when homie Juan, I think his name was Juan, when he called that girl and tried to pour his heart out to her, but it really didn't go anywhere. And it's like that's the last chance you're gonna get for anything.
And any kids, you know, like just watching this, hopefully there's some kids watching this, like please understand that pulling like a trigger or just a bad decision can eventually lead you to never even touch a woman again or hold a
Yeah.
hand. I'm not even talking about sexual stuff, just going to the movies or having that interaction of a woman. Um, of course, if that's what you're into, but it changes the rest of your life. And I felt bad for what's his name, Juan?
Yeah, Juan. I believe
You
Juan.
know, because as the first time, like, obviously he came here from El Salvador, and just having to find yourself in a foreign country, I think sometimes that has to do with getting involved with I could be completely wrong. I'm not speaking for everybody, of course, but when you're like first generation, immigrating here to the US and you want to fit in with people, right? You want that camaraderie. I'm not even speaking correctly right now, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And so you sometimes go to what you know rather than like, well, it's your environment and that's what you know. But sometimes we want to fit in, or we want to be accepted, we want to be validated, and
Mhm.
we go to the fucking wrong crowds. And it's like, and it's not like it's wrong, because sometimes, just like me thinking growing up, like sometimes the day just ended up to some crazy shit. And that's just, kind of what happened. It's not
Yeah.
like you woke up that morning like, oh, I want to go do this today. But just like be careful, because one small decision, one bad decision can fuck up the rest of your life. And yeah, that's poor kid.
Yeah. Yeah. I felt for him. And then to know his outcome, again, spoiler alerts, but he's getting deported, right? He's gonna do years, and then after that, he's getting deported. So it's like he's gonna have to start over in another country and
Which
learn.
isn't home
Yeah,
anymore.
yeah, it's no longer home. His family's over here. Everybody's over here. So he's gonna have to figure it out over there by on his own. And it's a fucked up thing. Maybe I've interviewed people where it's worked out for them, but I also know there's a lot of people who it didn't work out for, and that's fucked up, man.
Yeah, you know what? The idea of just going back to, so you came to a foreign country, but now you're going back to a foreign country because, like, I fought a deportation, and I visited Mexico, I think 10 years ago. That's not home. That's just not home. Um, and just, when I go to like TJ or whenever I'm out that, in that neck of the woods, like I see a lot of the dudes that obviously have been deported from here, and they're just not doing very well. Like you can tell they're on a good one, selling like I think it's like flyers to get into the restaurants or something like
Yeah,
that. And so for some of my friends, they're okay, but a lot of them too didn't turn out very well. They're on drugs. So if I'm gonna be on drugs anywhere, I think I would rather be on drugs in a first world country, because at least when it gets cold, I can go to an inpatient program, or we
yeah,
have certain resources that uh, Mexico or El Salvador got. And it's just a whole different view too in Mexico. It's like, well, I say Mexico because I'm Mexican, but even certain ideals that we share here in the US, right? They don't share those down there. So automatically when you're like a drug addict, you're already like demonized and looked upon as a criminal, which you're not a criminal. It's obviously a medical what is it? A medical condition.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say it's more of a we treat it as a crime more than like a public health crisis. It
Correct.
should be, yeah, it should be handled
Yeah.
as a public health crisis. But yeah, you know, it's fucked up. Just all of their stories, like, and then so you had homie that got out, got back on drugs. It was sad to see him deteriorate little by little. But even from the beginning, and again, I'm not judging. I'm just like thinking as a parent, right? From the beginning, when he got out and he's pounding and shit, I'm like, hey, what the fuck? Like, the mom was right there. I was like, man, Alex, what the fuck you doing, boy? You ain't drinking that shit. You know what I mean? Like, you just got out. But it's so normal to him that's his routine. That's what he does. And I just thought, like, fuck. Like, as soon as I seen that, I was like, man, it's probably not gonna end up well for him. Like,
I don't mean to be judgmental, but if that was my kid, I would have smacked that shit out his hand.
yeah,
Probably
fuck yeah,
smacked his face too.
yeah. You
You
gotta
know,
learn something today, motherfucker.
yeah, because I mean, I do feel bad for these kids, but you know, and then thinking as a parent and thinking as an adult, like, okay, first of all, my children are going to be walking these streets because I live in LA, and that's what it is. Do you know? It's like, do I really want somebody who's fucking drunk on a good one walking down the street might end up robbing my kid? Or you know, I look at it from that perspective. But like, where the fuck is the discipline? Like, I don't, you know, my, you know, like just a beer, like, come on, and you're celebrating that. I don't know, like my first thing that my kid would have got out is like, look, motherfucker, now you're gonna need a job. Job is the word of
Yeah,
the day, you know. And also just, you know, for my own children's sake, but like I don't know, that threw me off on the mom's end, because how the fuck do you expect your kid to do well when you're not even correcting what you're seeing right then and there? Like,
yeah,
there, can't pray to God for that shit, lady. Ain't nobody, no miracle workers out here,
yeah,
you
yeah.
know?
No, that shit got to me too, because I was like, what the fuck? Like, you want, yeah, like you said, you're not supposed to celebrate that you beat the case. Like, I would have
Yeah.
said, look, you beat the case, good. You shouldn't have put yourself in that position in the first fucking place, right? Like, and again, I've done years, I've done many stupid things. So I'm not saying, like, all I'm saying is, as a parent, I would have said, nah, motherfucker, you ain't doing this shit anymore. Like, this has to stop. That's the last time you go to jail, right? And it's like, nah, what was really his deterrent to hit the streets?
Yeah.
I really didn't see anything. And I thought that was sad. The whole documentary was actually really fucking sad, man. Really
And you
sad.
know, and again, I don't mean to be judgmental, but like when I'm seeing the kids laid out on the floor, the babies, and it's like, that gets to me, because it's like, well, what's in store for them? And you know what, let's just forget about like the three young men in the film too. Like, what's up with the victims? Like, we didn't get to hear their end of the story. And we got to remember, as a parent, right, like some of these parents, they'll never see their child walk into those doors again. They'll never get the opportunity to see some of those kids graduate from stage or become grandparents. Or so, I mean, a lot of people here, like, you know, when you commit a crime, it's not just like, oh fuck, homeboy got broken off, but it's also like, well, how many lives were affected by
Mhm.
that act, by, you know, by that. And I'm just looking at it from a different angle here, because I don't know what I would feel like if my child, I'd probably go fucking crazy if my kid never walks in again because some fucking idiot decided that he wanted to feel like Billy Badass, and, you know, needed some street cred, and, you know,
Yeah.
that was my child's life, or my child can't walk again, or, you know, it's just, we got to be more conscious of the shit that we do, because as a community, you know, sometimes, and I don't mean to preach or anything, but sometimes we're like, yeah, I love my neighborhood, this and that. Well, start showing that shit. And it's not necessarily by growing a bigger dick or a bigger ego or what, you know, but it's by what you do that's going to be good and affect others in within your environment, within that community, um, for like a better, you know, it's like live by purpose is what I'm trying to
Yeah.
say, you know, so
No,
that's what I'm,
yeah, no, and I agree, and because one thing that a lot of us say is, and I hear a lot, like respect la raza, support the raza, this and that. But if you look at who they were shooting at, you know, it's the
that's,
raza. So it's like, and that goes for everybody. And the reason why, I know a lot of people try to put like statistics out there. The reason why is because we're the ones who are in our community. So you're gonna basically go after who's in your community, right? So you're hurting, and this is what we don't see as kids, is we're hurting, we're in
Yeah.
pain. There's a lot going on there. And what we're doing is we're just adding more pain to people who are already in pain. So we're just continuing that. And you're right, when somebody passes away because of gang violence and you get caught, that's multiple families that are impacted. And
Mhm.
I told my daughter, because it's crazy, my mind goes in and out, right? Like it's like old school me, parent me, right? So
Mhm.
when Jared got broken off 160 years, he got up and he smiled, and I was like, he did that shit like a G, right? But then I seen his dad crying. I was like,
Yeah.
fuck, like damn, like it hit me back, it brought me back to reality. Like his family just heard their son is gonna be gone for 160. They're never gonna see him. They're gonna probably go visit him, but they're never gonna see him like they see everybody else. They're not gonna, what's up, son? How you doing? They're not gonna go to his pad. They're not gonna see his grandkids, or none of that shit. I mean, he robbed them of that. For at that time, at least at that moment, is what it felt like. You know what I mean? So you're right. And then the victims, they have their own things that they're going through, where she's never gonna walk again. She's not gonna be able to stand up tall, and how tall are you? Oh, let me stand up. Let's measure. Simple shit like that, right? She's not gonna be able to do it. It's fucked up.
She won't be able to wear a wedding dress and walk down the aisle, which a lot of women, that's what they have. That's like their little dream, not necessarily mine, but a lot of women do have that little cliche dream of,
Yeah.
being that bride. But I mean, but in Jared's case, like just looking at Jared when he's fucking with the dude that's assisting them with writing the script,
Yeah.
you're seeing that. I see him smile. I see him like, I see a little boy. Honestly, he's very, very immature. But at the same time, like you said, I see a hurt little boy. And not only that, but I felt bad for the little sisters that he's never going to babysit again, because they spoke so highly of him. And it didn't seem like he was a bad kid. Maybe he just got caught up in the wrong crowd. Remember how I think I said it before, like trauma bonding. Like sometimes we attract other people, like you just said, hurt motherfuckers attract hurt motherfuckers, or we harm, the same type of people. And I think that yeah, and I can relate to him. But what really pissed me off about that court date was the attorney. Like,
Oh
what the
fuck.
fuck was up with that?
And she was like, wouldn't he be wouldn't that be a gang, wouldn't that cause another, like, what did she say, like a gang conflict? He's like, yeah, exactly. No further questions. Like, what the fuck? Like, who are you working for?
I felt like she was fucking incriminating him. I was like, wow, like, and
That
then she compared. I'm sorry, go ahead.
yeah, every time they had something new, no further questions, no questions, no, what the fuck? Well, go ahead, my bad.
Like, we're talking about 162, 68 or 62 years. I'm like, at least pretend to care, Not only that, she compared losing the first case or something to doing blow for the first time. I'm like, is this bitch fucking serious right now? Like, I
she's
would have at
she's
least
a
pretended to
DUI
care about my
attorney.
fucking career.
Yeah, but she's a DUI attorney, right? So it's like, why is she handling this case?
I don't know. And I feel, and of course this is gonna get some hate, but when you are facing that many years, I don't care who you are, if you're an adult, a minor, whoever is looking at life sentences, maybe we should focus, because whether you're completely anti-crime or whatever it may be, I think that we can all agree that everybody deserves the right to a fair trial.
Yeah.
So with that being said, I feel that we should get attorneys who are actually capacitated to deal with these types of criminal proceedings, rather than a fucking DUI attorney. Like, what the fuck? Like, I
Yeah,
from a parent's perspective, from any perspective, that shit was just wrong.
she even said that they're not gonna win. And I was like, then what the fuck is the point? Like, what are you doing there? Like, he just got broken off for 160 years. What the fuck did they pay you for? Like, what kind of representation is that? I would have said,
Was
fuck.
was she hired?
I think she was hired because she said like she
Wow.
was a DUI attorney. She didn't say she was a public defender. I think in a I've had multiple public defenders, and I'm not actually I've had one that got me on a lot of cases. She was real fucking good. She was really good, and that's what I chipped out on because I've seen public defenders fight. I've also seen them fuck people up. I've seen like, oh shit. But yeah, you gotta
Just take
like,
the deal.
yeah. And a lot of times you could a lot of times that's probably the best thing to do,
Yeah.
especially if you know you did it. Because if you know you did it, you fucking did it, dog. Like come on, man. It's like it is what it is. Especially if you talk to them already. If you open your mouth, you're ready, like put yourself in a bad position. Like the best thing to do is take the fucking deal because maybe there's a chance you'll get out one day. I don't know. But that's why I say keep your mouth shut and get an attorney from the beginning. But it is what it is.
I'm with you on that. Yeah, keep your mouth shut, whether you did it or didn't do it. You shouldn't be doing shit to put yourself in those situations, but definitely lawyer up.
Yeah. Another thing I wanted to touch on, going back to the characters in here, I want to go back to Juan real quick. There was something that I wasn't familiar with, but I know it happened to my dad. And he actually, ended up in prison too. Is when parents will show favoritism towards children, and I saw the impact that had on him, and I was like, that's real fucking sad, man. That's like I know every kid is unique and they have their own set of great traits and they have their own shortcomings or whatever, but it's like you should try your hardest to treat them all equally or have a separate relationship with them. Like that's what I try to do. It's like, okay, you're not your sister, but I'm going to treat your sister this way. I'm going to treat you this way. Like this is the relationship I have with you guys, right? And I try to keep in mind and be mindful that each relationship is going to be special. So I thought that was real fucking sad that he felt like played second fiddle and shit.
I don't know how a parent could even do that. Like, all my fucking kids are equally annoying, but I love them equally the same,
Yeah.
you know? Like I mean, you're on point. Like they all have different characteristics, different personalities, but you adore them and you love them for who they are. And of course, there's certain I connect differently with my kids
Mm-hmm.
because of those different traits. But to treat someone like not even a stepchild would I treat as a stepchild, because if you can assist any child in molding that child and developing them, for good, then go ahead, write that out. But it was just so heartbreaking when I seen his story too. Like I just feel like he just got the short end of the stick since he was very little. And although sometimes I have felt like, because me and my sister are like my mom's, from a different relationship, and my brothers are from a different relationship, and I have seen the dip. So I don't know if that was the case there. Maybe he was a step kid. I don't remember it exactly, but
Mm-hmm.
even then, it's I was never treated just completely like second-handed stepchild. Like you're gonna go clean the house like Cinderella. Like I don't know. I don't get it.
Yeah.
I can't. I don't have an answer for that.
Yeah, that one was hard to watch, and I was like, and that's I think that's what makes it difficult because I see the perspective you're bringing up about the victims, and my heart does go out to the victims, and unfortunately, we only got to see one of them.
Yeah.
We don't know what happened with the other ones. We don't know what kind of trauma their family has to go through. But like I always say, like you don't. It's always better to try to prevent gangs, like prevent them from joining, rather than try to do it when they get in. It's going to be a lot. It's possible, but it's a lot more difficult. You have to get them before, right when they're on that edge, right when you see that there's those problems. You have to intervene, and that would you need services to intervene and help and say, look, what's wrong here? We need to assess the situation, and it's kind of like the work you do, right?
Yeah. So, like for me, right, because I am a gang interventionist, sometimes it's not even the kid, it's the fucking parents, dude. And not in every household, of course. I'm not, saying, hey, everybody's like this, but you just look at certain households and you just want to smack the shit out of the parents because you're like, dude, you are the fucking problem. You know, like in Juan's case, like, well, I'm not being accepted at home, and you know, these kids over here are showing me love. Fuck it, why not? You're any human being um needs that affection, needs that attention since we're born. Like you just, you know, it's a part of like human, I don't know, biology and shit, to be not only like loved and touched, but you know, we all that shit, like, and I get it for some parents. Some parents gotta work, especially, you know, like when you're single, you gotta make ends meet, stuff like that. But to just completely fucking exclude a child, like, and not only that, because there's other problems too that like that parents have. There's addiction, there's all kinds of fucking situations out there. But majority of the time with kids, when it's the parents,
Yeah.
you know, and I hate to say it, but it is what it is.
No, it's true. And any problems my kids have as adults, I'm gonna say I fucked up there. Like, so I'm gonna point it out. Like, damn, I fucked it. I'm gonna try to tell them, if you guys have kids, do not make the mistakes I made, right? Because like I don't I tried to do things the best I can, but there is that old, what's that saying? Parenting doesn't come with a handbook. But at the same time, you do have to be mindful of what you're doing. I don't drink, and if I were, I don't do it in front of my kids. I don't argue with my wife in front of my kids. None of that shit's gonna happen in front of my kids, right? I'm trying to show them, and I try to treat my I don't want to sound like people are gonna be like, oh, sipping cricket, whatever. But I love my wife, right? So I try to treat her like a queen. And one of the reasons I do is not only because I love her, I do love her, but it's also because I want my kids to see how you treat somebody and how you should be treated, right? I want them to have that relationship that they could. I don't want them to be like, well, this is how my dad treated my mom. Like, nah, like fuck that. Like I treated your mom great, so you better find somebody who treats you like that or better.
You know what? And the fact that you're like, I don't want to sound like a simp. Like, we shouldn't even say
Yeah,
that. Like, what the fuck? Like, you should treat your wife like a queen, because your daughters are gonna pick that up and they're not gonna accept any less. So the goal is, right, to have
yeah,
our future partners to we replicate, right, what went on at home. So yeah, I want some, if I'm being treated well, my daughters better get treated well. And isn't that like what family is? But we've
yeah,
gotten into all these fucked up ideals where, oh, it's okay to be single, and not that it's not okay. Everybody has the right to exist how they want to exist, as long as, you know, it's a healthy life, as long as they're happy. That's what
yeah.
I'm trying to say. But yeah, me, I do drink because I love to drink. But of course, I wait till my kids not, well, sometimes I don't. Like, my daughter's like, do you want to truly? And I'm like,
But,
but
but
you know, you
as long as it's responsible, and you're not like, it's not 2 o'clock and you're at home fucking drinking beer, all fucking depressed about life and shit, then you're good. You know what I mean? There's ways to do it responsibly.
I thought it was 5 o'clock somewhere all the time. No, I'm kidding. um, no, definitely. There's, you know, so anything of what is it? Too much of anything is not good for you. But definitely being responsible and mindful of the shit you say. Like, I'm telling you, I got like, bro, I'm starting to chill out. But a few years back, I would, you know, when I'm driving, I'm like, no, fuck you. And then my kids are picking this up and they're like, you know, and you really, really have to like filter the shit you do, especially in front of kids, especially for me, man, because I am one profane person. Like, I
Yeah.
curse, 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 curse. Luckily, my children don't do that. I'm sure they do it when I'm not around, but not when I'm there. But we but yeah, like cultivating those relationships, like when you speak of your wife, man, I get I get like a balance, I get like a serenity to your
Yeah.
relationship. And I don't even know you or your wife like that, but that's the way that anybody should be speaking about their partner.
Mhm.
And honestly, if it's not like that, then what's the point in being miserable in a relationship and fucking up those kids along the way, whatever children are involved along the way? Like, if it's not going to be, if somebody doesn't bring peace, serenity, and you guys aren't growing, like, I don't really know what you're doing there. But then again, I'm not a relationship specialist. I've had all kinds of dysfunctional shit go on in my life, which I'm not proud of, but I'm also not ashamed of. You know,
Yeah.
I
It's
am
part of who
who I
you
am.
are. Exactly.
It's part of who I am.
Yeah. And so I would have to say about the movie, I would say it's a very powerful movie. As a parent, sad, very sad. As a, teenage youth, ex youth offender, very interesting to see it happen again. Like, wow, like it basically, there were times where it put me back, especially when in
Yeah.
Silmore, because I said I got to be in those compounds, so I was like, fuck, I remember looking through that door. I remember that. Or it was that wasn't like that before. So it takes you back, right? And especially when the saddest part for me is when I saw Juan and I wouldn't say the saddest part. It was real sad, but what I was like, oh fuck, it's over, is when I saw Juan and Jared in the County Blues, because
Yeah.
at home, like, it's over, that's it, like they're no longer children. That opportunity has passed them, and that that hurt a lot, because I guess because it happened, it happened to us, right?
Yeah.
We didn't get the chance to go back to childhood. Like, that's it.
No.
From teenagers, we come out as adults, and we have to act like adults.
Yeah. You know what it took me back to too, like in Silmar. I was always at Silmar. I think I went to Central only for like a day or two or something like that. But like I wanted those HRO clothes. I wanted, you
Yeah,
wanted to be like one
yeah,
of the hot. So it did take me through that memory lane, because as twisted as the mentality might be, that's what it was back then. And but just seeing them in those county blues, like they're never gonna get those years back again. And I also feel like sometimes when people go to prison at such a young age, it has an impact for the rest of your life. When you go in at 18, you get out when you're 35, you don't get out at 35. You get out as that kid that was, detained back at 18, and whatever knowledge you've acquired along the way and whatever yard you've been in. But it's very difficult for somebody that's done all that time to just get out, no resources, and adapt. And
yeah.
it just, I think about like recidivism, and I think about these kids just being kind of taken in. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that they're innocent, but what I am saying is it becomes a fucking cycle within our communities. These prisons become attachments to our communities, because everybody that we know, you and I can think of at least 3 people who are busted right now, who are
Yeah.
either related to us, live by us, and that's sad. And it's like, you touched on raza and on cult, because I know we both pride on culture and stuff like that. But what is it that we're doing to build one another rather than fuck each other, fuck each other up the way we've been for historically, here,
Yeah,
with gang violence and stuff.
yeah, and it's crazy because, like, I think that we tend to focus, like, we always want to see the positive and everything, but maybe sometimes we should see the negative. I don't know. You know what I mean? Because maybe that'd be a way to keep kids away. Because there were a lot of good things that I learned throughout the years, right? That I can't really say. Like, I think a lot of the reasons why I have my strength is because of what I went through. But at the same time, I don't want somebody else going through that shit just to get that fucking strength. Fuck that shit. Like, do something, like, find it another way. I don't know. It's
Yeah.
difficult, man. It's difficult because I did learn a sense of camaraderie. I did learn a sense of never leave anyone behind. And maybe that's just because I just made it to the juvenile system and I just went gangbang. I didn't make it past that, right? So maybe I would have learned something else. But because I went there, I learned a lot of things that really helped me in my life today. But it's a fucked up way to learn things because it comes with scars, a lot of scars where
A
you're
lot
like,
of
oh
scars.
shit, yeah. And it takes years to figure it out. Like, oh shit, that's not, like, I was talking to my boy the other day. We both of us had daughters with special needs. And unfortunately, for some reason, when you go to like therapy and stuff like that, for your majority of it's females, right? You hardly ever see males. A lot of times you're the only male there. So we're talking about how you have to tone down that masculinity a lot.
Oh, the
Because
toxic
yeah,
masculinity.
you have to tone it down because you're like walking there like you're all fucking cool and shit, and like, man, I don't give a fuck. I'm not gonna say nothing till spoken to, and fucking, I'm just gonna size everybody up. This gang of female, and you're like, oh, I can't act like that right here. So you have to tone that shit down, right? And it's because that's what you're used to, because you go in the system and in the streets, you gotta be that tough guy, right? You can't let nobody see you smiling. What the fuck you looking at, smiley boy? You know what I mean? What you smiling at,
You know
homie?
what though?
Yeah.
I have to, I totally agree with you. And it does build character. Our experience, it builds character or it fucks up character.
Yeah.
Either or. There
Yeah.
is no in between. You're either with it or you're not. But I mean, I've made great friends. I don't regret anything. I just wish that the people who fell victims to whatever it was wouldn't yeah, like I can't say, well, no, I don't regret life is what I'm saying, but at the same time I do, sorry for, anyone that might have been hurt along the way. However, just like there, I'm sure there's different ways, right? Like we talk about like not leaving anyone behind. Hey, maybe like what about a Navy SEAL or something like that, and
Yeah.
getting to see different places of the world rather than being confined. And not to knock my experience or yours, because I love my experience. I'm able to do what I am able to do today because of that. And I you can't buy, and you know what, not only that, but like a lot of the knowledge that we've gathered and acquired throughout the years too, it can't be bought. You feel me?
Yeah.
Like you can't go to fucking Harvard and hey guys, no, we acquired it through our experience. And that's something I don't regret. Like, I don't know, or even the sense of humor behind all the dark shit. And
Yeah.
um, do you know what I mean? But
Yeah.
at the end of the day, though, it's like there's got to be better ways. There's got to be uh, there just has to be a different way, And definitely, what did Tupac say? You were talking about something and it came to mind. It takes skill, trying to be real and heal each other.
Mm.
So that to me, like it's always been there because with so many journeys in this world, why not be a good human being?
Yeah.
I know that sounds kind of fucking cheesy, maybe even a
So
little cliche, but
it's real as fuck because you hit the nail on the head with that. Like you have to be true to yourself. You have to be true to your community, right? And you don't have to have skill to be true to yourself, not get lost in that shit and heal other
yeah,
people. And I think that's the main thing that happens is sometimes people get caught up in what it is they're trying to fix. And next thing you know, they're falling. And it's not because they're being fake. It's not because anything. I always hear, oh, this guy started off like this guy's fake. It's not because of that. He got caught up in what he was trying to help. And unfortunately, he fell victim to it. He thought he can fix. It's kind of like politicians. What's the old saying? You go to DC to change the system, and the system changes you. Yeah,
yeah,
I guess it's the same with people trying to help in the street sometimes. You just have to be mindful. You have to be mindful of where you're at and what you're doing.
yeah. Yeah, definitely. I mean, you hit the nail on the thumb with that one, you know. But yeah, at the end of the day, I don't think there's any, what is it, any glamour in spending the rest of your life in prison over something that could have been prevented. And honestly, like many of the times and numbers don't lie, it's always like Latino in California, we're a majority. So obviously it's a huge population of like Latino male and women sitting in prisons. And what does that do to us? What does that do to our communities, to our neighborhoods, to our families? Where does that put our children? I think it's a high percentage with men. At least when men go away, the children stay with their mother. But in many female situations, when that woman goes away, she loses complete custody over those kids. And yeah, they might be somebody else's children, but again, these people are going to grow up to be adults. How are they going to conduct themselves after feeling abandoned and many other things? I'm not saying that trauma should be a an escape code for, oh, okay, I can go around acting like a fool. But what I'm saying is, like, we spoke about healing like you did, and it's like, how are we, what is it that we're doing? What is our purpose here? And not
Yeah.
our like our personal purpose, but in reality, like, how are you around other people? Are you making, not like you got to go around fucking like a leprechaun, rainbows everywhere and shit. No,
Yeah.
of course not. But open the door for a motherfucker and say, hey, you're welcome. Or I don't know, like what are we doing to make
Yeah.
the neighborhood a better place? If that makes any sense.
It makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So let me ask you, Hera, what did you like all in all summarize? What was your idea of, I know we went over it like crazy, but what would you give, what kind of words would you say, review would you say of that movie? Like thumbs up, thumbs down? I don't even know how we're gonna do this, but what would you say?
It was a powerful like film for me. I feel like everybody there, it fell victim to something, because nobody wants to sit in prison for 68 years. The mothers lost their children on both ends. Somebody lost the ability to walk. Just looking at some of the parents, obviously there was generational trauma there. So it's very powerful because it's very real, and we can sit here and we can talk about healing and promote all kinds of positivity and shit, but sometimes it's very dark places to get out of. And at the end of the day, it was powerful. It took me back to a younger me, but it also made me reflect on life in actuality.
Yeah.
What about your take on it?
For me, same thing. I thought it was very powerful, very sad movie. After having this discussion, there's other things that I didn't even look at that point. The victims, that now I'm thinking more about them, and it's for me. I thought it was a well done movie, very well done movie. I thought that the filmmakers took their time to humanize everybody involved.
Mm-hmm.
There was no real, like, I think that, I guess there was the bad guy, and even the bad guy, they did it in a way where it tried to fix itself, was the system, right? But even at
Mm-hmm.
that time, they were trying to get that bill passed that did end up passing.
Yeah.
And so you get to see, you get like, there was nobody there who was, it was, everybody was layered and very complex, which I
Yeah.
love. I thought that's what made the movie so great, is that there wasn't no, oh, the system against us. It was like, yeah, the system's broken, but we're trying to fix it. And there's people, he even showed the conservative lady who said she was torn on the issue. And then there were a few conservatives in there talking, that spoke. And I'm glad that they focused a lot on them to show that, yeah, this is an issue that people, like, it's not us against them kind of thing. It's like, fuck, they realized we need, it's not the days of Pete Wilson and shit. It's a new time where people realize we do need to fix this issue. So for me, I
Yeah.
thought it was, complex movie, layered, and I thought it was great. I would say I would definitely recommend, if somebody hasn't seen it, to check this movie out.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Yeah. And before we wrap it up, is there anything you wanted to add, Yahira?
No, those were great observations. I'm glad you touched on the conservative point, on the conservative people, because it's very difficult sometimes to just, say, oh no, they're criminals. Criminals or not, they were young kids, and we got to take that into consideration when making any type of judgment. Being informed, anybody has a right to an opinion, but make sure that your opinion is an educated opinion and someone informed too.
Definitely.
With
Definitely.
that, I'm done. I ain't got nothing else.
And with that, we out. Peace.